Weather on the Ones is brought to you by the PennDOS Law Firm. If you were in an accident, just call PennDOS.
You are looking at the newest pictures into News 13 of the bombings, one of the bombings during the Boston Marathon earlier today. The time is now 9:30. I'm Marla Weech. We are continuing our coverage all afternoon and all evening into the investigation that's now fully underway by the FBI as well as local agencies in Massachusetts. Just a few minutes ago, we heard from the governor of Massachusetts, we heard from the police commissioner, we heard from an FBI special agent about what was going to be what was going to be the direction of the investigation. 3 people dead, at least 130 injured, many of them critically, and according to the Boston Globe, at least one is that of an 8-year-old child. We're going to check in more on what is going on with this investigation in just a moment, but right now, let's check in with meteorologist Dave Cocciarella and your weather on the Ones.
All right, thank you very much. A stormy Sunday afternoon and evening in Central Florida. Things are much better today, but just for the sake of checking, this is what we saw. Now, these are official numbers. Many of you have reported much heavier rainfall totals in your own personal rain gauges, but Melbourne, Sanford, Daytona, by the way, breaking the record in the Melbourne area. On average, it was about 4 inches of rain out across Central Florida. We have some active weather to the south. We'll watch all of this and keep you up to date on what we expect this week with your weather on the Ones.
Back to our continuing coverage of the bombings in Boston. A few minutes ago, a press conference wrapped up, a press conference that had been delayed several times this evening as investigators gathered more information to disseminate, and we heard the latest on this investigation, which has now turned into, as they called it, an ongoing criminal investigation, and they also said it is a potential terrorist investigation. Let's also hear from Governor Patrick and Commissioner Davis.
I also want to say that there have been a number of stories I've heard this afternoon of residents in Boston and along the route in the cities and towns that the marathon passes through of extraordinary kindness shown to runners and others, neighbors and visitors who are as shaken by this experience as we are. And we so appreciate those kindnesses and thank you for them.
At least 3 people have died in this event, but the number of injuries and the people injured is an unfolding issue right now. We will not have hard figures on that until tomorrow morning. There were all sorts of questions that are being asked. I want to stress one thing. There is no suspect at Brigham and Women's Hospital. There are people that we are talking to. But there is no suspect at Brigham and Women's Hospital, has been widely reported in the press. I'd like to fix that right now.
Okay, once again, this is now an FBI investigation, but it's also it is also coordinating with state and local levels in Massachusetts. Here's what we heard earlier this evening. We heard that the National Guard has secured the area, which is now being called a crime scene, around Boylston Street in Boston. We also heard that the city of Boston will be open for business tomorrow, but it will not be business as usual. We heard the police commissioner ask the people of Boston and visitors to Boston to please bear with as they go through random checks of backpacks and other items during this investigation to ensure the safety of everyone. We also heard that there is a state of heightened vigilance, which was echoed by our own Orange County Sheriff Jerry Demings, who spoke with us earlier this evening and basically said, if you see something suspicious, say something. And also the Orlando Police Chief has also echoed those words through Sheriff Demings. We also heard that there were extraordinary kindnesses that were offered to the runners in the Boston Marathon, as you just heard the governor of Massachusetts refer to. Then we heard a special agent with the FBI get up and tell us that this is being considered a potential terrorist investigation. He gave out a special number, 1-800-CALL-FBI, for anyone who may know anything about this horrific, as the governor of Massachusetts put it, this horrific event. Once again, the latest numbers are that 3 people have died, at least 130 people have been injured. There is a joint investigation underway between the ATF, the FBI, state and local partners, the Department of Justice. This is going to be an ongoing investigation, and all resources have been offered to the people of Boston and to the governor of Massachusetts by the President of the United States, President Barack Obama. He called today's events a senseless loss. And he also said that the people of America, he was calling for the people of America to stand with the people of Boston. He said, we don't know why this happened, we don't know who is behind it, but 3 times the president remarked in his brief statement that we will find out who did this. The people or the group responsible will feel the full weight of justice. They will be held accountable. He then mentioned that the people of Boston are resilient people and that America stands shoulder to shoulder with them. This happened, of course, as you take a live picture right now at the U.S. Capitol, where the flag is flying at half-staff and where a moment of silence was held this evening, and also where the flag will continue to fly at half-staff tomorrow. This happened on Patriots Day in Boston, Patriots Day celebration, the Boston Marathon, which the president remarked the world comes to the streets of Boston during the Boston Marathon. This video that you're watching right now happens to be brand new video, the latest video into us, I should say, showing the power of the explosion from the sidelines and also showing some sort of projectile, it appears, hits at least one of the runners, and that runner goes down almost immediately after that explosion and the showing of smoke there, and of course pandemonium breaks out. If you continue to watch this, it may loop again and you can see the power of the explosion. Watch the right side of your screen right there. Okay, did you see the runner that just went down? There was a projectile of some sort that came out and struck that runner. This is the same scene of that same bombing, but from a different angle. So once again, 3 people dead. Here it is again. This is the newest video, the power on the right-hand side of the screen. See the runner who has just fallen right there in the middle of the screen. From a different angle, you'll see this same runner go down as right after a projectile of some sort comes out from the side immediately after that explosion. Once again, this is News 13. The time is now 9:38. We are in continuing coverage of the events, the horrific events as it was described today by the governor of Massachusetts, the horrific events at the Boston Marathon on Patriots Day, a day that was supposed to be a celebration. From what we understand, according to the Boston Globe is reporting that one of the 3 people who died is that of an 8-year-old child, an 8-year-old boy. Sad all the way around, whether it's an adult or a child, but many children were off for this holiday, and many of them were certainly on the sidelines watching the Boston Marathon. And at the same time, there were some runners in the Boston Marathon today who were running on behalf of children. We heard earlier from our web anchor, Christine Webb, here at News 13, that there were people who were running on behalf of children with cancer. There were people who were running in the Boston Marathon today to honor the 26 children. They were the 26 children and staff who were killed December 14th during the massacre in Connecticut. So 26 miles run to honor the 26 children killed in the massacre at Sandy Hook. Right now, we're going to check in with your weather on the ones, and we'll be back with more coverage right here on News 13.
Start your morning with News 13, with overnight news from where you live. Plus, weather and traffic every 10 minutes. Your morning news, only on News 13. Now, your accurate Weather on the Ones forecast with live digital Doppler X3 radar.
It is your weather on the ones here at News 13. Overall, it was a fabulous day for Central Florida after that extremely stormy Sunday and Sunday night. That's the way things look from downtown Orlando. This is just after 6 o'clock this evening, during rush hour, but still was a very nice evening out there. In terms of Sunday, and a lot of folks have wondered, well, what type of rainfall did we really get? I mean, was it significant? And certainly it was. I'm going to go ahead and change over to a different piece of technology for you and give you an idea of what we see in terms of rainfall totals. Now, north of East Central Florida, it was pretty quiet. South of East Central Florida, it was pretty quiet. But here between Brevard County and Flagler County, we saw a lot of folks with 1, 2, 3, but a couple spots in Brevard County saw 4 inches. Now, these rainfall totals are just Doppler estimated. Many of you have emailed or texted or tweeted us today letting us know that you saw a solid 4.5 inches of rainfall in your rain gauges, and certainly that was the case all around Central Florida. Heavy showers across the southern part of the state this evening. Those will continue to slowly wind down. We had some of that activity in southern Osceola and Brevard earlier for us, but now we're looking at partly cloudy skies that will clear late this evening and overnight. I do think we're going to have some fog in the forecast for us overnight as temperatures get down into the upper 60s. Tomorrow we're looking at a pretty warm day, lower to middle 80s at the coastline, even with the onshore flow, middle to upper 80s over the interior locations. There's Osceola and then into Orange and Seminole County. Most of us in that 86 to 88 degree range, partly cloudy skies tomorrow afternoon. There is a small chance, mainly over the interior, of getting a couple of spots of showers, maybe a rumble of thunder in the forecast tomorrow afternoon, but rain chances really are dropping, and based on what we saw today in terms of storms only being over the southern part of the state, I think the expectation for rain tomorrow is fairly limited. 89 degrees tomorrow in Ocala, 82 in Daytona, again cooler at the coastline because of that steady onshore flow out there. Marine forecast not bad, 2 to 3 feet. Short period swell, bit of a wind shot, but there's not a lot of wind to speak of, so it is not significant. I'll get you a complete surfcast coming up in just a few minutes, but at 21 minutes after the hour, I'll have your 7-day forecast. We'll talk about how things will change later in the week and into the weekend with your weather on the ones.
Central Florida trusts the severe weather experts, the only meteorologists tracking weather around the clock, all day, every day, only on News 13. Get connected to what's happening in Osceola County with News 13, with more updates and more coverage from Osceola than any other local station. Stay informed with News 13.
New developments in the controversy involving a Trayvon Martin target in Brevard County. The Port Canaveral police officer accused of having an image of Trayvon Martin at a gun range will likely be out of a job. News 13's Kelly Cook is at the Port Canaveral Police Department, where officers spent the day discussing what happened.
Today, the CEO of the Port Canaveral Authority spent the day in meetings here, soliciting feedback from officers about the best way to improve the department. That meeting about ethics was closed to the media. This as the officer in the center of all this controversy says this is nothing but a big misunderstanding.
I take these allegations seriously, and I find that others are accusing me of something that I just plain did not do.
A complaint was filed in early April that Sergeant Ron King of the Port Canaveral Police Department offered his fellow officers a shooting target with a silhouette bearing the likeness of Trayvon Martin, holding what Sergeant King called 2 non-threatening items. Trayvon Martin was shot to death in Sanford. He was found with Skittles and an iced tea.
My first thought was insensitive and more or less thoughtless. Should have been, processed before something like that was done. I mean, to me, it just doesn't seem right.
Sergeant King, who is also a firearm instructor, has been with the Port Canaveral Police Department since 2011. In his YouTube video, he says he has over 25 years of law enforcement experience. King said the purpose of that target is being misconstrued in the media.
I have here copies of the statements made by the complaining party and a witness, both of whom stated that I referred to as a no-shoot training aid.
King says the target was supposed to be an example of what officers should not shoot. I spoke to several law enforcement officers in Central Florida who say that no-shoot training aids are common, but they are usually generic pictures of unrecognizable people. In a statement released today, the CEO of the Port Canaveral Authority called King's actions, quote, insensitive, unprofessional, and unacceptable. Now the work begins on making sure this tiny port along the Space Coast is at the center of attention for something other than this incident. We haven't learned much about Sergeant King's past conduct history with the Port Canaveral Police Department, but we do know that he once worked for the Melbourne Police Department. It's not yet known why he left in 2006. His pre-termination hearing will take place on Friday, April 19th. Reporting here in Port Canaveral, Kelly Cook, News 13.
April showers indeed, Central Florida. Now it feels like summer. We'll talk about when cooler conditions may be in the outlook with your weather on the ones.
Central Florida trusts the severe weather experts, the only meteorologists tracking weather around the clock, all day, every day, only on News 13. High school baseball is on Bright House Sports Network, live on the Subway Restaurants Game of the Week. In the final week of the regular season, Timber Creek faces off with West Orange. Both teams have their eyes on the playoffs. Live Wednesday at 7, with game highlights from Lake Howell and Haggerty. For a complete game schedule, go to BHSN.com. Timber Creek and West Orange live Wednesday at 7 on Bright House Sports Network, your home for high school sports. Channel 47 and HD 1147, exclusively on Bright House Networks. Now, your accurate weather on the ones forecast with live digital Doppler X3 radar.
All right, your weather on the ones here at News 13. Expecting quiet weather the rest of this evening and overnight tonight. Late this afternoon over in Brevard County about 6:30. It was beautiful with blue skies, steady onshore flow, nice sea breeze, really pushed any of the cloud cover over the interior, and that is essentially where it stayed. We did get some rumbles of thunder down over southern parts of Brevard and Osceola County, but for the most part, that activity has come to an end for us. Looking at what's happening around the rest of the country, two spots worth talking about. One up here in the front range of the Rockies, and essentially new storm system getting wound up out there that's going to eventually bring some active weather to our area in Central Florida, but not until the weekend. And then you get back up into the upper Midwestern states, Milwaukee and the Chicago area, seeing a fair amount of rainfall along that frontal boundary. Here in Central Florida, things have been quiet for us, and we're going to continue to keep them that way as we work our way through the evening and into the overnight hours. As a matter of fact, the next couple of days in Central Florida are actually looking mostly quiet. Now, if you're traveling around the rest of the country, again, that active weather for the Pacific Northwest, the Front Range of the Rockies, up into Chicago, Milwaukee, and the Great Lakes. Travel delays, not a huge issue. A couple of pockets, San Francisco, Denver, a major one. That's where all the snowfall is occurring. And then that's pretty much it. Across the eastern seaboard, things are pretty decent. Travel weather now, Channel 600, brought to you exclusively by Bright House Networks. That's where you get all your travel and weather information together. We got 50-plus global airports and travel delay information on each of those airports, plus the weather in those regions as well. Closer to home, it was very stormy across the southern part of the peninsula, but now generally we're looking at fair conditions over Central Florida. Either clear or partly cloudy for you overnight tonight. Some fog is definitely in the forecast, so reduced visibilities on the roadways, certainly a possibility early tomorrow morning. Overnight lows are well above normal for the time of year, upper 60s and lower 70s. And then tomorrow and into Wednesday and Thursday, we're really talking about a very quiet period for Central Florida. Enough moisture and enough very hot conditions for tomorrow afternoon that maybe we'll squeeze out a shower late in the day over the interior. But then that high pressure builds in and just stabilizes the atmosphere for our Wednesday and our Thursday. Steady onshore flow may keep temperatures a couple of degrees lower. And then Friday into Saturday, that's when we begin to see the approach of our next frontal boundary. Should bring more moisture into place. Chance of showers Friday. Some possible thunderstorms on Saturday as the front moves on through. And behind that front, we're looking at a milder outlook for our Sunday and our Monday of next week. So after what was a very stormy Sunday for Central Florida, with many of you getting as much as 3 to 4 inches of rain, multiple tornado warnings out there as well. Things are looking much quieter for this week. We're going to continue to track what's happening out on the Atlantic with your marine forecast, and for the surfers with your surfcast coming up in just a few minutes. But right now it is live digital Doppler X3.
Take a look at this video. Investigators in Volusia County need your help finding at least one burglar caught on tape who may be responsible for 4 break-ins around Port Orange. 4 homes were hit in broad daylight last Thursday. News 13's Bakari Savage is in the Water's Edge subdivision talking to a neighbor of one of the victims.
One of the neighbors here described this as a wonderful place to live. That was before I told her of the break-ins, how a man would just walk up to her door, ring the doorbell, and when no one answered, break in. You can see the suspect pull right into the driveway in this newer model white Toyota Corolla, like he lives there or at least is an expected guest. Then he walks up to the front door, just as Port Orange police describes, rings the doorbell, making sure no one is home, and then breaking in. A couple of the people here had no idea the break-ins happened just a few days ago. Ray DuBois actually left his garage door open.
Just unloaded my car, actually was getting ready to go jogging. So I'm in my sports clothes here, so I would have shut my door before I went jogging.
Okay, so how long had your garage door been open?
Probably for about 10 minutes or so.
With 4 break-ins on the same day, DuBois is an easy target. Although he was at home, the victims have not been home. Angela, who asked us not to use her last name, says she's lived here for 6 years, and the only way to prevent something like this is by looking out for each other.
Well, see, I think the thing is, do you know your neighbors? Neighbors have to watch out for neighbors, and that's what we have here.
Ray DuBois lives a few houses down from Angela and says they all talk to each other about what's going on. Ray and I talked about the video, how the burglar just walked up to the pool door, which seems to be unlocked, and continues to go into the house. Although he agrees with Angela that this is a wonderful place to live, Ray cautions to still protect yourself.
Well, no, we definitely lock our doors, as well as, again, we have the alarm system. We have, and can't give away all my secrets, but we have some secondary things that we do as far as like making sure there's bars across certain windows, etc.
The other subdivision burglarized is Sawgrass, which is near here. In Port Orange, Volusia County, I'm Bakari Savage, News 13.
You can see all of the raw video showing the burglaries right now on our website. Just log on to cfnews13.com/Volusia. If you can help solve these crimes, call Port Orange Police.
Hot and humid weather continues in the forecast for Central Florida. When will we get back in the lower 80s? We'll tell you with your weather on the one.
Get connected to what's happening in Osceola County with News 13, with more updates and more coverage from Osceola than any other local station. Stay informed with News 13.